What did I say?
Hello and welcome to the second episode of Reframe Yourself. It's Todd Pierce again. This episode is called The Ultimate Mindset Shift, and it's going to be a good one. Now, if you recall, in the last episode, we talked about the overarching frame. Now, the overarching frame was that we're growing up as people without the right tools, ways of thinking, feeling, and being to really navigate life and produce the kind of results that we want. We're growing up with a limited outlook or model of the world or a point of view. And as a result, a lot of people kind of track through life, never really being who they want to be, having the things they want to have, and doing the things that they want to do. So that was the overarching frame. And we kind of talked about how that's a problem and ways that you can kind of begin to get out of that loop. Now, in this episode here, we're going to continue along that arc, which is the whole arc about expanding that frame, what you believe you can and can't do as a person, and really enriching your model of the world. Now, the fact of the matter is that in life, we are driven and unconsciously guided by these things called needs, beliefs, and values. They dictate a majority of things that we do in life, and especially how we do them. So in this episode today, we're going to talk about how to get that ultimate mindset shift. Now look, that's a bold claim, but bear with me, because once you get this one thing, believe me, everything else will begin to change. That's a simple fact, because I'm sure you'll agree with me. There are ways of thinking about things and doing things that can produce a great result, and at the same time, there are ways of thinking and doing things that can produce a far inferior result. So what I want to give you today is a way to simply get out of the rat race, get out of the loop that a lot of people run that keeps them disempowered, that holds them back and prevents them from really having and doing the things that they want in life. So let's get into this episode. All right, so the ultimate mindset shift. So as I said, it's a bold claim, but bear with me because this is really, really important. And kind of highlight the start of this point, I want to tell you about, I guess, when I was in prison the first time. So as you recall from the last episode, I've been in prison twice now. The first time was for drugs and stupid stuff, hanging around people and violence and everything like that. And the second time was for more violent stuff, but also for something I didn't do, which had me facing a massive, massive sentence. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because what I noticed just through reflection in my later years and after I've learned some pretty cool stuff is that I went into prison the first time with a massive chip on my shoulder. In fact, the chip on my shoulder only grew bigger because throughout my life, I've been in and out of the court systems, when I was younger, juvenile courts, through to when I was a teenager, to when I found myself sitting in the jail cell when I was 17. Now, what I noticed as I look back is that not only myself, but also the other boys that were in there, we all blamed everyone and everything for us being there. None of us had responsibility for us being there. We didn't own our choices. We didn't own the decisions that we'd made. All the time, consistently, I shit you not, it was always somebody else. Myself too, it was the police. Now, it's funny because this is an extreme example of blaming and making excuses and not taking responsibility for your actions. But the fact is that a lot of people are operating with a limited model of the world, and inside this model of the world that they've got, they find themselves going to what people in the NLP circles will call the effect side of the equation. So let me define that for you for a moment. So we are guided in life by our needs, our values, and our beliefs. Now, one belief in particular that will always hold you back until you start to notice it, address it, and then move beyond it, and I want to give you some language today to do just that, is this belief that things are happening to us, that life is out of control, that we have no power to create change and to be who we want to be. Now, that's called being at the effect side of the equation. If you're into NLP and stuff like that, essentially what that means is that you feel like life is happening to you. As a result, you blame all the things that are going on around you. And here's the thing. You may not blame them outwardly and, verbally do it. It may be so quiet or a subtle thing. See, living at effect is what a lot of people do. And we've got different reasons for doing it. Oftentimes it's a learned thing. In fact, there's a lot of stuff that we learn, learned behaviors. A lot of people go through life and we develop even learned helplessness. It's a real thing. In fact, they did studies in the 70s on, gosh, top of my head, they're doing studies with a German Shepherd. And if I recall correctly, the German Shepherd was in a box that had electricity coursing through it. And in the beginning, the dog got electrocuted and shocked. Now, if I recall correctly, what happened after that, after a couple of days of getting shocked, the dog didn't even try to get out of the box, even though it could have jumped over. What it had learned is helplessness. So it had learned how to be helpless. And as a result, it is cowered into the corner. Now, animal activists, yes, this is the 70s. I guess they had different things going on back then. But what they learned here was something quite unique. And that was that as people, we do this. And this is actually a result of something, like stress. So when we have stress constantly in our life, and it's a constant, consistent thing, or it's anxiety, or it's pressure, that can build up if we don't learn how to deal with it and escape that loop. And it can create a sense of learned helplessness where we just feel like there's no escape. So today, I really want to give you a shift in your thinking and help you move from that effect side of the equation where that helplessness does live and move over to the cause side of the equation, which is where empowerment lives, which is where you are the controlling force in your life. You own your decisions, you own your choices, and you're the person that can change anything if you wish. But it takes a shift. It takes you recognizing when you're going along and something goes wrong or something's happening that you don't like, and when you go, oh geez, yeah, this isn't me. Because this is what people do when they're at the effect side of the equation. This is what I did. I was in prison, 17 years of age, and I went, it's the police. I'm here because of the police. Or I'll go a step further back. I'll go, oh, it's those guys that I was hanging around. Now, what happens when we push back on the fact that our choices and decisions are the ones that land us in the situations we find ourselves in is that we don't get the learnings that we need to, one, move beyond them, but two, be empowered. So this is a shift where you need to start going, okay, hang on. I can be and will be and am the guiding force in my life. I am the person that makes the choices. I own my mind. The fact that I own my mind and I'm the person in control up here means I'm the person in control of my life. And the frame I want to give you right now is that anytime you're going along and you point the finger outwards, or you go, oh, this is too hard, I can't do it, or this is out of my control. I get there are cases where this is true. You might not have enough resources at your disposal, but remember, resources can be acquired by being resourceful. And that comes down to you being at cause. Because see, the difference between being at cause and being at effect is that people at effect, they've got 50 million reasons why things aren't going right. I don't know if this is you. Maybe you know people like this. People that have you say, hey, how's your day going, mate? And they go, oh, yeah, it's going all right, but tell you what, the boss is being a pain in the ass, mate. He's always on my case. He's never given me a break. And what's interesting is if you look at that person, and you may know people like this, maybe it's someone you know well. If you look at this person could be rocking up to work late. They could be not really performing well. They're just coming in, they're not engaged, and they're just fluffing about. As a result, the boss is always on their case. See, if that person was at cause, they would go, you know what, I'm rocking up late and I'm not really performing well because I'm not engaged. And they'd make a choice to either one, up their game, or two, find something that actually makes them feel passionate where they can be engaged. See, if we continue down this track, and a lot of people are in that loop, and a lot of people in fact, can be at cause sometimes, but majority of their lives are lived at this other side of the equation where they're disempowered, they've got less choices, they've got less ability to move and maneuver in life, and as a result, they really do feel stressed out, overwhelmed, and like things aren't going right. So this is a massive shift, and when I was 18 and I was sitting in jail again, because I didn't learn my lesson and I became a raging freaking alcoholic, is that I was sitting in prison and I was facing a life sentence for something I didn't do. And I had a moment where, and this was spurred by my environment, I was in a cell block where there was a group of guys that were a lot older than me who all had equally large sentences. And what was really interesting for me as I reflect back is that these dudes, and I think this is the reason why it impacted me so much, is that they had learned their lesson too late. And I'd always sit with them and chat, and we'd play cards and we'd do that kind of shit, and we'd gym. And I'd always be talking to them about, what they've done, how they've got here, and they'd always be giving me the same advice. And that's that, mate, you got to look at your choices. How have you landed here right now? It's easy to say, yeah, this person here has spoke to this person and you're framed and you're set up and now you're facing this. But how did that get to that stage? How did you meet that person? What led you there? What choices, what decisions? And it really impacted me a lot. And I remember one day I sat down in my cell and I think I was 6 months or so into my sentence, and I was sitting in there and I play guitar and sing, and I wrote a song called Fly Away. Now, for me, I write music and it's a massive outlet for me emotionally and psychologically. And I wrote this song and I was feeling completely at peace. I was in Zen, and I sat there and I just started to connect these dots. And I started to realize as I look back all the way to when I was, 7 years old, and all the stupid stuff I did back then as well. I noticed every single step that I'd taken, I had the equal choice to make another decision. But what I realized is that as I grew up, I allowed myself to be at effect of myself. See, we're not always at the effect of other people and things outside of us. Sometimes we're at the effect of ourself, our own emotions, our own beliefs, our own model of the world, which is why this is such an important arc and the reason why I'm going to hammer home on this. And I noticed that each step I took, I could have made a better choice. But as a result of my conditioning and learned behaviors, I let myself make other choices. People would say, hey, Todd, come out, let's go party, let's go drink, let's get on the drugs. I'll be like, yeah, sounds great. And I'll go out and I'll do that, and I'll be in groups of circles of people that would influence me to make worse decisions than maybe I would have if I was alone. And it kind of hit me as I sat there after writing this song, and I realized that every single step along the way, I could have made a better decision and my life would have been different right now. Even the most terrible things can be traced back. I admit, things happen in life that are absolutely horrible. There's accidents, there's things that are completely traumatic. And I'm not trying to dismiss that things can be bad. But what I want to say is that we are always presented with a choice in life. And that is, do we want to take control of our mind and our emotions, our actions, our behaviors, and our decisions and change? Or do we want to be victims for the rest of our life? It's like they say, winners will always find a way to win, but losers will always find a way to lose. And cause and effect is winning versus losing. And the choice you need to make is whether you want to be a winner in whatever fashion that is to you, or whether you want to be a loser. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean, do you want to be disempowered for the rest of your life? Or do you want to draw a line in the sand right now and decide, you know what? Yep, shit's been not the best. Life's been happening. But from today, moving forward, I make a decision to have a life that I can be proud of. Because when I was sitting in that cell at 18, this was the massive shift, is I noticed that every single step along the way, I'd let myself make a bad choice. I went out drinking. I took those drugs. I got into those fights. I did stupid things. And I noticed even the fact that I was sitting there with this charge that was something I didn't even do. I met that person through the drugs, through those groups of people, through those decisions I made. And this is when it clicked to me. This is when I sat there and I thought, you know what? I'm in a fucking horrible situation right now. I could lose the next 15, 20, 25 years of my life. But I made a very powerful decision that I don't care. I was sick and tired of being at effect. I didn't have the language back then. I didn't have the frames way of thinking. I just had enough of not feeling like I could control my life. I had enough of feeling like a victim. I had enough of blaming and making excuses and making denials. I had enough. I decided that from now on, however long it took, I didn't care if it took 15 years before I got on probation or parole and I had to get out and make my life better. I did not care. All I knew is from now on, I am going to be the driving force in my life. The language I now have is I'm going to be at cause. I'm going to be empowered. I drive the bus. I'm in control and I'm going to make better choices. And look, if you're down the rabbit hole and things aren't great, in fact, they're quite horrible, like I was when I was 18, then know this. When I got out of prison, and this is quite funny, call this what you will, call this the universe, call this God, call this whatever it might be. After I had the realization and I took complete responsibility for all my actions and not actions and choices that I made, within 2 weeks I got a letter from the courts saying that the charge had been withdrawn and the complaint had been completely withdrawn, had been dropped. The person said it never happened. Call it what you will. For me, I feel like life was waiting for me to learn my lesson. And when I got out, and this is a point I really want to make, is I didn't have guidance, I didn't have mentors, I had no idea really who I wanted to be, but I knew that I didn't want to be disempowered. I knew that I didn't want to be this, God, this person was always worried about someone stabbing him in the back or worried about, cops getting me or anything like that. I just knew that I wanted to make myself proud, my family proud, and be someone who actually people could look up to. And that was a guiding thought and feature in my mind. And it did not happen instantly. In fact, it took me about 7 years of consistent working, making better choices on better choices that led me to living a life that I can now be proud of. And a lot of people sometimes have this false idea that things happen like that. Get me right, you can change inside instantly, but sometimes it takes a lot longer for your external environment to change. For me, it took about 7 years, and I just made better choices. I was not perfect. When you start being at cause now and you make this shift, see, I call this the ultimate mindset shift because when you get this, when you decide, you know what, I am in control, I own my life, I own my destiny, and it's done through the choices and decisions that I make. The choices and decisions I make are the little things that build up to the big thing, which is your life, your destiny. And once you get that, you can start making better choices, better choices, better choices. It's a law of successive approximation. It builds up on itself. And from 18 through to where I am right now, I just made better choices. They weren't always the best, but they were better than I used to. And as a result, my life changed. Some might say, geez, it could have changed faster. Maybe I could have, but I did it myself. I had no help. So what I want to say right now to kind of wrap this up and move out of this episode is that, look, if you're feeling like life's happening to you, if you're feeling like things are out of control, I want you to ask yourself a question. That question is, am I being at cause or am I being at effect right now? Am I pointing fingers out there at things that are going wrong? Am I not taking responsibility? Or am I actually owning it? The fact that shit's messed up right now, but am I owning it and saying, you know what, okay, shit's messed up, but what action can I take right now to start to fix it? See, that's the difference between being at cause and being at effect. This person here realizes stuff's not going right, but they get in, they address it, they assess it, they find out what they need to do, and they find out maybe who they need to come and help, and then they take the action required. Versus going, oh, everything's so hard. Oh my God, the government cut my support, and oh, this and that, and oh, I went to school and the school was shit, and as a result, I've got this shitty job, and I hate this, and I hate my wife, and I hate my kids. Hope you don't hate your wife and hate your kids, but you know what I mean? That's effect. Life's happening to them. And here's the interesting thing. If you believe in the law of attraction, like attracts like. Have you ever noticed how people hang around people like themselves? People like this, they watch certain things on TV, they look at certain kind of news, they notice all the negatives and hard things, and this is the mindset of a winner stuff. They notice everything that's going wrong. They've got the mindset of a loser. They're negative, they're cynical. As a result, they attract more of that stuff into their life. What comes with this shift that you can make right now when you decide that you are the cause, you're the driving force, is that you begin to attract the good stuff into your life. You adopt a belief that you are the driving force, you are in control. And as a result, you make better choices and better decisions and your mind operates at a better frequency. And here's the thing, just like me, when I made this choice, there were people that stayed in my life and there were people that naturally dropped off like flies. When you make this shift and you commit to it and you don't go back to that old standard of living, everything starts to change. And you can do it right now. Every single second of every single moment of your life, you just have to decide whether you want to be the driving force and be in control, or whether you want to give your power away to other people or your emotions or the things that are unconscious. You have to decide to pull yourself up and make choices in line with who you want to be and where you want to go. So that is the ultimate mindset shift. So take this now. And just notice, and this is the question that I like to ask when I first started doing this. I kind of noticed, whoa, am I blaming things or not? I didn't have much language back then. Now, when I talk to clients, I go, okay, cool. Am I being at cause or am I being at effect right now? You recognize that, right? The next step is you go, okay, I'm being at effect. You know what? I don't like that. I want to be at cause because that means I get the things I want. And then you simply drift out and then notice, okay, what's going on that was making me feel like X? Okay, what do I want? How can I get it? Who do I need to help me get it? What choices do I need to make? What action do I have to take? And then simply do it. action is king in this respect. Once you address it and you find out what needs to happen, you take the action. That's being at course. So anyway, guys, that is the end of this episode. Now, in the next episode, what we're going to cover is something that is really, really quite important. So this episode here was about your belief in regards to yourself and whether you're empowered or disempowered. Now, in the next episode, we're going to go into further something that's really important. I think this comes down to how we learn things and I guess how we gauge what's valuable and what's not valuable. So I want to expand your frame even more, and I want to give you a way of thinking about life that allow you to get maximum value from all things that you do. So it's going to be really exciting. It's probably going to go for maybe 3 to 5 minutes. It's going to be a nice and short one, but it'll allow you to start thinking differently so you get the most out of everything you do. So anyway, this is Todd Pierce. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. I'll see you in the next episode.